Alright, welcome back everybody. Today we're in Anime Last Stand. So today we're going to be checking out Aizen and Ulquiorra. Um, I do have most of the other units, but I still need to finish some of their grinds. But so today so we'll start with these two for today because I still gotta get the extreme boosted and like one more unit. So we're gonna be starting off with Aizen. I do have some buffs going on. Because I have Gilgamesh's lead, so we have the 15% damage, and I got idle buff as well. So we're starting off at 8.10 mil every 3.96 seconds. I don't have kills on, well, I don't have their skill trees on either one of them. Ulquiorra does have Soul of Night on him, and I have Soul of Strife on Aizen as well. So he has anti-magic starting out. He is Avatar Glorious with triple S stats. So let's see what we got here. So we have Transcendence. When an enemy enters 60% of this unit's range, apply a stacking 1% slow the closer the enemies are to this unit, and it goes up to a 30% slow. Increase the damage enemies take by 1% the closer enemies are to this unit, up to 50% extra damage. I do believe there is a radius too. Yes. I will move him in a second. Um, Increase Aizen's range by 1% the closer enemies are to this unit, up to 60% extra range. So I'll move him like right there in a second. Upon placement, start a 250-second timer. After the timer finishes, you unlock this passive. On hit, apply one confusion stack to the enemy. For each stack, enemies take 2.5% more damage from Aizen, up to 50%. And at 20 stacks, when an enemy enters Aizen's closest possible range, he stuns them for 15 seconds, which is this little circle thing. So we'll go ahead, place him right there. So, all right. So now we'll go ahead and start with the upgrade. So let's see, 6,500 for the first one, and he is hybrid on placement. So we got that. Oh, before I forget, let's see what his attack effects are. Okay, so we got 10k and 12, 18. Then we got diverted toxin. So he switches to a circle, and it looks like it's slightly getting bigger as his range goes up. So he's doing 2.51. Let's go on. False illusion. So now he's full AoE, and now he has daze. Afflict enemies take 20% more crit damage, and have their movement speed reduced by 100% for 10 seconds. And 55-second cooldown per enemy, plus anti-magic. So we're at 1.85 bill every 10.5 seconds. So getting his crit skill tree would be helpful, since they take more crit damage. And then let's go ahead and get him to his last upgrade, which we have Reality Shatter. So it's like his range isn't the biggest, but on smaller size maps he does do cover quite a bit. So I see his range constantly going up and down because of his passive, since it's constantly just giving him more range, and then they reset every time he kills them all. So it's not bad, not bad. And then plus with the stacking slow as well. And then they also take extra damage since because once they start getting to this point, then they take even more damage. So we have Reality Shatter, which you have Reversal, and then there's Force. For Reversal, you force all enemies to walk back for 10 seconds. For every 500 total confusion stacks applied by Aizen, you add plus 5 seconds to your walk back. And then the walk back stops early if the enemies reach the start of the map. So Reversal is more useful when they're near the end or the middle, because if you use it when they're at like the beginning of the map, then the closer enemies there are here, then it'll just stop it, and then the rest of them will barely walk back. And then we have Force, which you pull all enemies to the closest possible position to Aizen, and then he time stops enemies for 40 seconds. So for this one, we'll use Force. So then it brings them here to his range, and then he time stops them. So that way, when it pulls them to that close circle, then they're doing the up to 50% damage. So so right now he's at 2.31 bill. Think with idle buff he goes up a little higher. I'll wait for that in a second. Oh, is he outside of idle's range? Hold on. Yeah, 2.71 bill. Plus with these two. So with all his passes, he's probably doing upwards of 3 bill basically every 10 seconds. Um, you could probably get his SPA lower if you got him to glitch, so but overall he's fairly decent unit. I actually like him. I'll probably use him in specific areas. Um, I do like the new Rukia. It's a little iffy, but I do like the new extreme boosted one. I was using her earlier. All right. So now let's go ahead switch over to Ulquiorra. Let's go ahead and place you over there. All right. Anyways, so for Ulquiorra, we start with 16.3 mil, and I do have the Soul of Night, so he has plus 12% damage. I do have him with glitched and the attack enchant. So he's hybrid on placement. And then we have 17.7 every 5.95, obviously with idle and the soul buff. So should be fine. Yeah, should be fine. So off rip, you start off with one ability. You have Feather Retraction, which removes all the feathers from enemies, and you deal 15% of this unit's damage per feather applied, with a cap of 75%. And if the enemy has 3 or more feathers, they stun for 3 seconds. I cannot speak apparently. As you can see, you can see all the feathers stacking above them. So we have demonic feathers. Every attack, they apply 1 feather to enemy with a cap of 5. So if the enemy dies when the feathers are attached, you gain plus 5% damage per feather for 30 seconds. So if he kills enemies with like 5 feathers, then they get 25% damage. So with the cap of 25, so it's actually not bad. And then you have Lance of Thunder. Every 30 seconds, you target the strongest enemy. You apply Electrified in a medium circle centered on that enemy. And then the Feather Synergy. Increase this attack's damage by 10% per feather on the target with a cap of 30. Not bad, not bad. Alright, so before we start losing, let's go ahead start upgrading. His attack effects are actually not bad. So we got Burst. We got Violent Burst, which is the full AoE. He does like a little circular motion. Can't really see it. Alright, we're at 6, upgrade 6, and we're already getting up to a bill. Nullifying Expulsion. Okay, so he like goes up to them and then just that, and then now we get Rend to Nothingness. So now we're at, he does a lot of damage. If I could get Glorious, his SPA would be lower, but he does quite a bit. Um, if you were to add Bulma's buff to it with the power plus the soul and idle, he goes over 3 bill. I think it got to like 3.3 is what it was at earlier when I was playing. So we have Rend to Nothingness. For every feather applied to an enemy, the enemy takes 5 trillion more damage with a cap of 25 trillion, and you gain plus 50% damage. If the enemy doesn't die, you apply a stacking slow, which is minus 2% per second until 80% slow, and then once the 80% is reached, the slow remains for 60 seconds. So if they don't have a feather on them, then they won't take any damage. So you have to wait till he attacks them first and applies the feather for it to do even just 5. In which it's a stacking nuke of 5 trillion. So it'll definitely be useful in what was it, tournaments. Because being able to have a 25 trillion nuke is very useful. And with his damage output, if you were to get his crit skill tree up, he'll do quite a decent amount of damage in tournament. But let's see, we're starting to get up there. So we'll go ahead and use it in a second. How many of you have feathers? So we'll just go ahead, pop that, and they're all dead. And then there is also the feather attraction ability, which we'll use in a second. So then boom, and then it did, what was it, 15%? Since they almost all of them only had 1 feather, so it didn't do a lot. But yeah, because it is a cap of, oh, now we're at 4 billion. So after using his Rent to Nothingness, adding the 50% multiplier, now we're stacking up to 4 billion. It's actually very good. I really like these units, and Ulquiorra has almost 100 range, so he's not bad either. Um, Overall, I think both of the units are pretty well done. I do like the fact that they're the Brave Souls version. Because it's similar to how they did with Dio, where the Over Heaven version is not really anime specific, but it's more towards a game. So I think doing custom made forms, honestly, is a really nice thing they added. Please die. So yeah, that's it for this one. I'm gonna go finish. I think I need to just get Shinji's. Um, I just literally need essence, and then I can evolve him. And then I need to go do Captain Commander's extreme boost, and then I'll have the rest of the units. So that'll be it for today. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.